The newest starter Pokemon have been revealed for Generation 9. Fuecoco, Sprigatito, and Quaxly. And we're going to break down the origins for these Pokemon and discuss what types we think they might evolve into in the upcoming games Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. Let's dive in. Yo, whoa, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka Drive. I'm bringing you guys a brand new video today, and today we're going to look at the origins of these new starter Pokemon, our first Generation 9 Pokemon, which I am over the moon about. I love them, I love their designs, and actually doing some research and learning a little bit more about them and what they can be based off of and some of their origins has made me actually really like them even more. And that's one of the things that I've always loved about Pokemon is how much kind of research and backstory goes into these various Pokemon. We see them as just these cute little creatures on the screen, but it seems as though Game Freak and the teams involved really did their research to come up with something that really fit the theme of the brand new region, which is very clearly based on Spain and Portugal, and it's just a really, really cool experience. So I'm gonna break down all three starters, give you some of my thoughts, and kind of what I think we're gonna see in terms of evolutions as we move forward here into Generation 9. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like it down below, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We're closing in on 1 million subscribers here, so you can get in before 1 million, so make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't yet. If you find that I missed anything or you have any other ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. But otherwise, let me know what starter you guys are gonna pick. For me, it's definitely Team Fuecoco, so let's start with the little fire Pokemon first. Okay, so looking at Fuecoco, first of all, I love this little guy. I'm gonna mention a few different things here, just based on some initial takes. First of all, crocodiles do not have sweat glands. They actually release heat through their mouths. And the name Cocodrilo is alligator in Spanish. So that may give us some signs as to why you kind of get Coco. Obviously, the Fue in the beginning is Fue or Fuego, which is for fire in Spanish. But it's important to know that Coco or Coca is a mythical ghost monster, kind of like the boogeyman, which is found in many Spanish-speaking countries. In Brazilian folklore, this monster is pictured as a female humanoid alligator. So some pretty interesting stuff. There's this mythical ghost monster that is called Coco, and that could be some of the inspiration for its name as well. It's also worth mentioning the word Coco can also mean skull, and I think when you look at Fuecoco, it's pretty clear that it could very much so be a skull sitting on the top of his head. I know a lot of people look at this Pokemon and immediately think apple, but I think it's actually more closely resembling a pepper. And it could be based off of the ghost pepper, which happens to be, well, at one point was the world's hottest pepper in 2007. However, it could also be more so based on the piquillo pepper, which is a small tangy pepper native to Spain that is actually prepared by fire roasting. So I think regardless of what pepper it's based off of, maybe it's another pepper that I just don't know all my peppers. I think this thing is most certainly a hybrid between a crocodile, a pepper, and I think there is a skull element here. And that ultimately leads me to believe that this thing could end up being a fire and ghost typing, which we've seen a few times, right? We've seen with Chandelure and the brand new Hisuian Typhlosion, but it's not as if they haven't, done the same types of starters before. I'm looking at you, fire and fighting. So the reality of a potential fire and ghost type is very possible. I think a lot of people are speculating immediately ground type or maybe dark type. I think maybe crocodile is kind of invading our thoughts when it comes to that. But I think that there's definitely some serious resemblance here between fire and ghost and how there could be some sort of tie-in between the ghost pepper, the fact that it's got this skull. I think there's really a story to be told there. I'm gonna go out on left field here and say that there's also the chance that we could see our first ever fire and grass type. Maybe? I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch. I was reading a theory that talked about the starters all kind of blending their types. So you get fire and grass and you get water and I think it was water and fire and then grass and water. And it was just, they all kind of blended types. I'm not convinced, but it is a pepper. Peppers are plants. Plants fall into grass typing. Maybe, just maybe, it's a stretch. I wouldn't count on it. And then I think the last thing that's super worth mentioning about Fuecoco here is the Chinese Zodiac. And we have a very strong history of the fire starter being based loosely on the Chinese Zodiac. And a lot of people are like, well, this thing is not on the Zodiac. And it's important to remember that that's like a fan theory, right? Like Pokemon has never come out and said that we base our starters on the Zodiac. But there is some potential relevance between the fact that crocodiles, alligators, and snakes are all kind of in the same family of reptiles. But there's a handful of kind of mythical creatures like the Quetzalcoatl, which is a feather plume serpent that this thing could ultimately turn into. There's another mythological serpent in Brazilian mythology called the Boitata. I'm probably messing up these names. And there's a handful of other kind of serpent, snake-like things that ultimately Fuecoco could end up evolving into to kind of tie it back in to the snake section of the Chinese zodiac. But ultimately, being a reptile, it's close enough. I mean, we've got a couple other stretches. You know, you've got the Echidna Cyndaquil being rat, and, you know, a couple of them kind of fall a little bit outside the lines, like Fennekin being a fox, but falling into the dog. They're both in Canada, but nonetheless, you know, there could be a little leeway there, so I don't think the fact that it looks like a crocodile at this point, very clearly a crocodile at this point, deters it from being a part of the Chinese zodiac when all is said and done. So final predictions on Fuecoco. He's absolutely my favorite. I think he's gonna be a ghost pepper, fire-breathing crocodile. That's gonna just be awesome, and I'm all over it. I love it. That's it. My favorite starter by far. Now we're gonna talk about Quaxly, and Quaxly's a very interesting one, okay? This little earnest and tidy duck most certainly has some sort of tie to the Spanish Navy. I think there's a lot of things we're gonna break down here. So the first one is there could be some sort of relation to Don Quixote, or Quixote, I think. Don Quixote, which was a novel by Miguel de Cervantes. I am butchering all these names. Clearly, I don't speak Spanish. But there's a resounding theme from that book. It's considered one of the most important and impactful books in history. But it basically is talking about the fact that while individuals can be right, society can be wrong. And the word quixotic is used to mean the impractical pursuit of idealistic goals. So this name could have something to do with that kind of reference and kind of that novel that existed. I think there's also a worthwhile look into the word auxiliary, which means providing supplementary or additional help and support. There's also a naval vessel. Simultaneously, the word can also mean a naval vessel, which has a supporting role, which is not armed for combat. So I think when you look at like auxiliary, quack obviously is like the sound a duck makes, but I think that there's definitely some tie-ins there. So I think there's a really strong Navy and sailing theme here. I think even the outfit, the Navy style cap, I think there's a lot of kind of tie-ins there. And the Spanish Navy obviously wears a similar style cap, as I had mentioned. And the earnest and tidy is very much so tied directly into kind of what you would expect a Navy ship to be kept, right? There's also the chance that there's a reference to Donald Duck here, right? I can't be the only one who sees it. In fact, Donald Duck was trending on Twitter yesterday because clearly there's something going on here. And it could just be a nice shout to one of the most popular franchises along Pokemon, which is, of course, you know, Mickey Mouse. So Donald Duck, shout outs to Kingdom Hearts, where I know him most from. But there's a possibility that there's a little bit of inspiration there. And it seems as though this is indeed based on the white-headed duck from Spain. So that's worth mentioning. In terms of its evolved forms, there's some thoughts that it could become like a pirate, like a duck pirate that's like a fighting type or a dark type. Maybe there's some tie-ins there. I think obviously the clear flying type is, you know, it's a duck, it's probably gonna fly. Maybe it turns into a flying type. Would they do another water and fairy starter? I'm not really getting fairy vibes from this thing, so I'm not gonna count on that. But we'll have to wait and see. It could also just stay pure water, but I think fighting is a solid guess right now. That seems to be kind of what the community is thinking as well. I think it's worth mentioning steel as well for Quaxly. Maybe the Empoleon treatment where it becomes like a Navy ship. I think you just kind of got to look at that sailing Navy theme when it comes to Quaxly and really base our ideas off of that. So maybe we end up getting a water steel type like Empoleon. Wouldn't be the worst thing for sure. And last but not least is little Sprigatito. And for those who don't know, gatito is Spanish for little cat, and sprig is a small stem or, you know, bearing leaves or flowers. So its naming is very clear, Sprigatito. Very cool name. A couple things to make note of here is on the Spanish coat of arms, there's actually a lion on it. Maybe that's what Sprigatito's destiny is. Hopefully it does not stand on 2 feet. Can we not have bipedal starters for once? It seems like every time they just get up on their 2 feet and then it's like, they ruin them. But, you know, it could obviously be based on the lion, but I think a lot of people are really feeling like this thing is based on the Iberian lynx, which is from southern Spain. The thing about the Iberian lynx, which really ties in nicely here, is it prefers environments of open grassland mixed with dense shrubs, which fits perfectly with the fact that it is a grass typing. There's a few ways this Pokemon can go. I think some people are expecting maybe it becomes like a Puss in Boots type fencing Pokemon, and maybe becomes a fighting type. But I think there's a lot more speculation of it kind of falling into maybe the psychic type, as lynx often in kind of history and mythology potentially have psychic powers. So, because they're like very mysterious creatures. I think there's also a lot of people thinking that maybe it turns into a fairy type as well. It's kind of got those eyes that maybe give it a more mystical vibes, and I think fairy and psychic both falls into that. But what I want to see the most is little Sprigatito here turning into this saber-toothed tiger or the Smilodon. I think that would be phenomenal, and the history of grass starters is often much like the fire starters have the Chinese zodiac. The grass starters are often extinct creatures, at least a handful of them. When you look at like the Decidueye and you look at, Meganium, and a handful of them are based on, Torterra is another one. A handful of them are based off of, kind of dinosaurs almost, right? Extinct creatures. So the idea of Sprigatito turning into a saber-toothed tiger and growing some intense fangs could be really, really cool. And if that was the case, there's a lot of options for this thing. I mean, you could see going into a dark typing like Zarude. You could see it going into fighting typing and being a little bit more aggressive. And I think that's phenomenal. So I'm really excited for Sprigatito in terms of what its evolved form looks like. But I'm definitely Team Fuecoco right now. Let's not get it twisted. So that's a breakdown of all 3 starter Pokemon, some of their naming origins, what they might be based off of, and what you might be able to expect when they evolve in who knows how much time. We might not get these evolved starters for a long time. I don't know. It depends on if they want to tease it to us or not. But let me know your thoughts. If you think I missed anything or anything you wanted to add, leave it in the comments section below. I think we can have a great discussion down there. And let me know which starter you guys are picking. You don't know the final evolutions yet, but again, I'm Team Fuecoco right now. Like the video if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. And thank you so much for watching this one. My name is Dan. I also go by A-Drive, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.